Hi, my name's Zena. I'm just a Swiftie with an English degree, and today I am coming to you to talk to you about a song that has only grown and grown with meaning since it came out in 2020. If you are new to the channel, I make weekly videos about Taylor Swift. We examine very thoroughly her art for what it is. We look at the lyrics of her poetry, we look at her songs, and we do deep dives on what they mean and the context surrounding them with the lore. That's what we do every week. So if you like that kind of thing, don't forget to like and subscribe. This week, let's talk about Cardigan. Have watched my Cowboy Like Me video, then you know that we are now looking back at Folklore and Evermore and potentially Reputation for little hints and things that could be hidden into earlier discography because of things that she has now told us recently with Tortured Poets Department release. We now have the benefit of hindsight and we are now looking back at everything and seeing what we missed. Today, I want to point out Cardigan because Cardigan, maybe more so than any other song, maybe even Cowboy Like Me, has grown in meaning as we examine it and as we find out more about it. And I wanted to talk to you about that today because we have a lot to look at. Cardigan, we have a voice memo for it. We have things that happened on the Eras Tour to talk about. So let's get started. And to talk about that, I take you to example numero uno. The first sign that we had that things were not all that they appeared. It happened on May 5th, 2023 at the Eras Tour in Nashville. And let's discuss because this is very important to the lore and very important to understanding Cardigan. And remember, my Eras Tour stop was on April 30th. So I was on my hyped Eras Tour. I just saw the best concert of my life when all of this went down. But let me take you back to May 3rd of 2023, where Matty Healy is performing his own concert, and he stops before performing About You and says to the camera, or seemingly mouths to the camera, "This song is about you. You know who you are. I love you." Then what happens on May 5th of 2023? Taylor Swift is performing in Nashville and she stops in the middle of Cardigan and she mouths the exact same words to the camera. Matty Healy was in the audience, remember, because he showed up. If you haven't heard my Eras Tour breakdown of exactly what happened, don't forget to watch that video because it's very interesting. But he had surprisingly showed up and Taylor Swift stops in the middle of Cardigan and says, "This song is about you. You know who you are. I love you," which is just what Matty Healy had mouthed 2 days before. And to say that we were losing it is kind of an understatement because, like, what? Like, this is messy Taylor at her messiest. I mean, she was looking at a camera knowing that everybody in the world, essentially, at least 75,000 people who were there in attendance at the concert were watching her while she says this to the camera, while Matty Healy is in attendance after he had just said this at his concert a few days before. So people were already wondering what in the world was that. The world was in excitement, things were happening. This was what a time to be alive, let me tell you what. The song that Matty Healy stops singing and starts mouthing, you know, "This song is about you" to the camera is about you. Lyrics of About You, you know, which he is now saying essentially, apparently, is theoretically about Taylor Swift, include these lyrics. "It's somewhere I go when I need to remember your face. We get married in our heads, something to do while we try to recall how we met. Do you think I have forgotten about you?" Which I thought that immediately the thing that stuck out to me about this is this, "how we try to recall how we met," because that took me directly to LOML from the Tortured Poets Department where she says, "I wish I could unrecall how we almost had it all." So these two could be, you know, things in throughout all of their music. I don't know. We don't know.
I just thought that there could be secret things within songs that they have written in the past is very interesting, especially when we see that Taylor is healed essentially in the Cardigan music video by literally getting into her piano and finding the cardigan on the other side. I think that this imagery is really interesting when we think about that possibility that, you know, music is a way that you express your emotions and it's a way that you find healing, but that could also be something that they were doing. It's interesting to think about, but, you know, we're just reading lyrical tea leaves. Who knows?
Just apparently they said openly, publicly, that these two songs were about the other person. So let's break it down and let's talk about the Taylor Swift side of that and talk about Cardigan. If you guys want anything from the 1975, I am not, you know, an expert on the 1975, but I can provide or attempt to provide whatever you want. So let me know. this was the first glimpse that there was anything other than fictional things to be found within folklore. She literally is looking at the camera here while on stage saying that Cardigan, which up until this time had always been assumed to be completely fictional, or at least for the most part fictional, was specifically about somebody else. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how Cardigan is apparently all about Matty Healy, and let's connect all of the dots to the Tortured Poets department, because at the end of the day, Cardigan kind of is an Easter egg for what was the Tortured Poets department. So let's break it down. Remember, Cardigan was released on Folklore, which was released in August of 2020. Taylor has stated in the past that she started writing this song essentially a few days within the pandemic. She was dealing with isolation, and a lot of the themes within this album, she has said, deal with isolation, because she was very much so feeling isolated at the time. So let's talk about Cardigan. Let's deep dive into the lyrics. Let's talk about the lore, and let's examine it because it's very interesting. Vintage tee, brand new phone, high heels on, cobblestones. When you are young, they assume you know nothing.
When you are young, they assume you know nothing.
And first off, from this first couple lines, I see like a dichotomy between new and old here. She says vintage tee, but you have your brand new phone. So this is present day. We see this dichotomy also almost instantly in the music video as well, because while she is singing about vintage tee, brand new phone, she is also looking at a picture of what appears to be like an ancestor, someone who is obviously older. So I think that is also interesting, and we are playing with this whimsical view of love and loss here. High heels on, cobblestones. High heels and cobblestones don't go well with each other. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. So she is just reflecting on this moment in time, I believe, where she was potentially wearing a vintage tee, had a brand new phone, was living in this moment where she was young and didn't know anything, but she felt differently. Sequin smile, black lipstick, sensual, politics. When you are young, they assume you know nothing.
When you are young, they assume you know nothing.
And sequin smile, black lipstick, those two things are also a dichotomy. To me, you have a sequin smile, like a sparkly, beautiful smile, black lipstick, which is seen as almost like a darker, like almost like more seductive shade of lipstick, almost kind of darker even than red, right? Because, you know, like to have black lipstick, it's kind of a darker vibe. You are young, they assume you know nothing. Sensual politics, I believe, is essentially flirtation. I believe is sensual politics. She's just talking about the politics involved with getting someone romantically, because love is a type of political game in a way, because you are involved with like flirtation. There are steps that you take. The line here is what's most important about this stanza. The when you are young, they assume you know nothing. She's reflecting on this moment in time where she was young and she was in love, but people were telling her that she knew nothing, or at least that's how she felt at the time. She felt like she didn't know anything because she was young. We don't know who the they is here. We don't know who was saying that she was too young, or, you know, who the they is, if it's just like the world assuming that she was just going through all of these guys and dating all of these people and she didn't know what she was doing. We don't really know. But for whatever reason, the main point of this stanza is when you are young, they assume you know nothing. And really that we see is the main point of the song, because she rebukes it and she is reflecting back on it, trying to remember how she feels like that is not true. And we see that immediately being pushed back on with the chorus here. But I knew you.
I knew you.
Dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight.
Dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight.
I knew you. Hand under my sweatshirt, baby kiss it better. I
knew you.
And when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite.
You put me on and said I was your favorite.
And I think that that is what's being reflected with this chorus here, is she is immediately going back to this memory, at least how I read this. I read this as immediately she is hearing, like, when you are young, they assume you know nothing, but she's remembering dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight. She's remembering these vivid moments that to her made her feel like she was loved and that she was comfortable and that she was as beloved as someone's favorite cardigan. You know, it's a very beautiful and very simple chorus, but it gives us so much visually, and I absolutely love it. Talked before about how Taylor is so good at giving us showing us imagery rather than just telling us emotions, right? And that is another beautiful thing that we see in Cardigan over and over, is this wonderful descriptive imagery that we can feel rather than just being told about. So she's dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight. This gives me another image similar to what I felt with Maroon, where it's just like these vivid moments of being like young and in love, right? It's like these memories that stick out that feel more powerful, and it makes you feel like everything is second best after that meteor strike, right? And that is kind of what I feel also reflected in Cardigan, as we're looking back at these memories. When she knew you, dancing in your Levi's, drunk under a streetlight, you put me on and said I was your favorite. And I see this reflected over and over in this song, that it is these simple moments of memory, of reflection, of these very powerful but yet simple moments that have left her reflecting on this relationship that has seemingly not panned out. You know, this relationship, she is remembering something that was and reflecting on it. It's not a present day relationship that she's experiencing, but yet she cannot let it go. Imagery of putting on a cardigan and saying that it's your favorite, I mean, that's a very, in my opinion, a very powerful imagery, and it's also extremely relatable. Like, I think that it's a very relatable imagery to have a favorite sweater, and to be somebody else's favorite sweater, I think that that's a very beautiful image. Continues with, a friend to all is a friend to none. Chase two girls, lose the one.
Chase two girls, lose the one.
When you are young, they assume you know nothing. And this is a very important stanza to me, because this is essentially telling us a little bit about what happened. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily what happened between her and Matty or anything, but I think that it's interesting that she includes a friend to all is a friend to none. Chase two girls, lose the one. And Folklore has a first track called The One, which I heavily theorize is about Matty Healy. We'll talk about that song as well, but we see these images of The One peppered throughout Taylor's discography post Folklore. We see it mentioned in Maroon, which we just went over last week, so check out that video if you haven't watched it yet, but we see it peppered throughout. So I think that it's very important to like kind of look at that when you see The One mentioned, because I think that it's purposeful. But she says, chase two girls, lose the one. When you are young, they assume you know nothing. And while Taylor Swift and Matty Healy didn't actually date prior to 2023, we do know that there was flirtation. They hung out 2014, end of 2014, beginning of 2015. He was dedicating songs to her. There was something going on end of 2014, beginning of 2015. We just don't really know what it was. From what I have seen from Matty Healy's relationship timeline, he was also dating and interested in Halsey all of 2015. We don't really have specifics of when that was. So I'm just theorizing, like it's possible that there could have been something going on with that, you know. It's possible he was very involved with Halsey all of 2015, so that would have been right at the tail end of when, you know, he would have had interaction with Taylor in 2014, beginning of 2015. So it's possible that, you know, if they had anything going on within that time period, it could have meandered out. What I understand from his relationship with Halsey, it was kind of messy anyway, like on again, off again kind of thing. We don't even really know when they were dating. So just mentioning it, just throwing it out there. We know that 2015 he was very involved with Halsey, potentially butts right up against this timeline. Just saying, it's possible, but who knows? I don't know anything. I'm just reading lyrical tea leaves once again. That's why we're here. We get a slightly updated chorus again with, but I knew you, playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends.
Playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends.
I knew you, your heartbeat on the high line, once in 20 lifetimes.
Heartbeat on the high line, once in 20 lifetimes.
When I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite. I think this first part of the stanza is important because she says, but I knew you, playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends. To me, this sounds like, you know, playing games, like you're playing child's games and you're giving little pieces of time, just giving your weekends. It's all just fitting in little moments of time for this to work. But I knew you, your heartbeat on the high line, once in 20 lifetimes. This, I think, is very interesting because we know that Matty Healy had a addiction problem in 2017. So your heartbeat on the high line could potentially be related in some way to his drug addiction that he had in earlier times. Could also be just reflected on like a heartbeat on a high line. Typically a high line would be across like two buildings, like walking across almost like a scrapers is typically what you would see with a high line. So I think that that's interesting. So either your heartbeat is on a high line like 1 second from falling off, or it's on a high line because you are high. Those are like the two options that I see with those lyrics. If it is in fact related to Matty Healy, once in 20 lifetimes, I also just want to point out, and I know that there's lots of contention about who the alchemy is about, but it would be remiss of me to not mention that this mention in Cardigan of once in 20 lifetimes feels a lot like the mention in The Alchemy of this happens once every few lifetimes. I'm just saying, that could potentially be a check in the Matty box on who alchemy is about. I know that there's a lot of contention with that, and we're going to be talking about that more with my unpopular opinion video that should be coming out in January, so stay tuned for that. Who is the alchemy about? Is it about Matty Healy, or is it about Travis, or does it matter? Or is it about anybody? Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it. Get that same repetition here at the end with, and when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite. And just this imagery again, I just think it's so sweet of, you know, feeling like you are just like a discarded piece of fabric, like a discarded piece of nothing, but then being picked up by somebody else and being told that you are their favorite in your lowest time. I think that that imagery is beautiful, and that is one of the reasons why I love this song so incredibly much. But she continues here with this next stanza, and she says, to kiss in cars and downtown bars was all we needed.
Was all we needed.
You drew stars around my scars, but now I'm bleeding.
You drew stars around my scars.
And I think that this stanza is so important for understanding Cardigan, because I think this is telling us like a little bit more about the small moments that they had, right? If this was about Matty Healy, I think that it is very possible that they did kiss in cars and in downtown bars, and that was all that they needed. And I think that it's also very important here that she says, you drew stars around my scars, because we see over and over again in the discography where songs that may be related to Matty Healy are mentioned, that this imagery of stars is reflected. You know, we have reflecting on that line, which is also one of my favorite lines in Taylor's criticism entirely, is you drew stars around my scars, but now I'm bleeding. Just so much sadness to me in that line, the you drew stars around my scars, but now I'm bleeding. It's like the old scars were reopened. It's like she felt like there were stars now around her scars. And for me, I know that I've talked about this a little bit before, but whenever stars are mentioned and being starry-eyed, things like that, I kind of think that she's just reflecting like the feeling of being in love or love in general. So it feels to me like you made me feel that love and, you know, healed the scars, but then reopened them again. So she's just bleeding. And the heartbreak that I feel with that imagery is just, it's intense, but that's kind of the point. So she did her job. She did her job. Really ordinary things. To kiss in cars and downtown bars was all we needed. Maybe this was, you know, time periods in New York, you know, like we talked about with Maroon, you know, who knows? But I think that there is a lot of possibility here when we look at the lyrics. What do you guys think? I have to talk about the voice memo version of Cardigan because I feel like it's really important. Whenever we have a voice memo version, it's just special anyway, because that is like the first iteration of a song's existence ever, and it's going to have the most original or, you know, first lyrics that Taylor ever thought of with the song. So in Cardigan, instead of your heartbeat on the high line once in 20 lifetimes, in the voicemail version, she says, laughing like a damn fool, breaking every damn rule.
I knew you, laughing like a damn fool, breaking every damn rule.
Theoretically, if I'm reading lyrical tea leaves, could in fact sound like Matty Healy. He does break a lot of rules, doesn't he? Kind of doesn't make good choices sometimes, kind of starts fights. I mean, you know, not the best always, you know. I knew you playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends. She says, I knew you living in a gold age, sneaking to my bird cage.
You living in a gold age, sneaking to my bird cage.
Which, why might that be interesting? Well, Taylor Swift has a life-size birdcage in her apartment in Nashville. just a fun fact, you know, this birdcage does actually exist. I'm sure in the terms of this song, she is referring to like sneak into my birdcage just like my life. I think that the reason she likes cages and bird cages and uses them for decoration and things is because it's kind of an interesting like metaphor of like probably how she feels. You know, she feels like probably she is a bird caged, but her cage is, you know, her apartment, and the world is the, you know, what is caging her essentially because of the fame and the celebrity and things like that. But just a fun fact, because I thought that that was interesting to be sneaking to my birdcage, because that birdcage kind of technically does exist. It's life size. I'll try to find a picture and insert it so you can see. To the regular version, we have this next stanza, which tells us so much, as Cardigan just still consistently does. Because I knew you, stepping on the last train, marked me like a bloodstain.
Stepping on the last train, marked me like a bloodstain.
To me, this makes me feel like whoever this he is, that they led her on until the last moment. Like they stepped onto the last train. Like the last option that they have was the one that they took to leave. Marked me like a bloodstain feels like, you know, you now have scars, you know, he drew stars around your scars, but now I'm bleeding. You know, she has been marked like a bloodstain. She's not going to forget this. And of course, we have to mention, what is the color of a bloodstain? It's red, maroon, whatever you want to call it. I knew you tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy.
Tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy.
And this also is very interesting because of the voicemail version, because we know in the J.M. Barrie original version of Peter Pan, the ending is written where Wendy and her brothers choose to go back home, and Peter says that he will return and like be back for her, but he never does. Like when he does finally return, she is an adult and she has her own kids, and then Peter starts taking them to Neverland. So it's very interesting here that she says Peter losing Wendy in this version of the song, where the original version of the song, in the voice memo version, she says Peter leaving Wendy.
Peter leaving Wendy.
Both of these are true. It's just one is Peter doing it and one is it happening to Wendy. So I think that that's very interesting that she changed it to losing Wendy, which was the, you know, the effect. You know, Peter did lose Wendy, but he did leave Wendy too. Right after Peter losing Wendy, she says, I knew you, leaving like a father, running like water.
I knew you, leaving like a father, running like water.
And this, I think, is also super important to the magnitude of what this relationship felt like to her, because when she is saying leaving like a father, that is a person that you are supposed to be able to count on that shouldn't be leaving. So I think that that just points out the hurt that it causes. But then also running like water, what is the most natural thing for water to do? It's for water to run. Like running like water means that it was natural for them to leave. Like it was just something that they had no problems with doing at all. They were running like water.
You could even say that leaving was so easy, like running water, that you could say that it may have been a legacy to leave. Couldn't you? It's an interesting thought, seeing where other little tidbits from songs could be. But leaving was a legacy in Maroon, and here, leaving is easy as running water.
And when you are young, they assume you know nothing. And so it's almost like she is telling herself, like, this is what happened. Like, yes, you were leaving like a father, running like water. And when you are young, they assume you know nothing. But then this is what she actually believes. But I knew you'd linger like a tattoo kiss. I knew you'd haunt all of my what ifs. The smell of smoke would hang around this long, 'cause I knew everything when I was young.
'Cause I knew everything when I was young.
I knew I'd curse you for the longest time, chasing shadows in the grocery line. I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired, and you'd be standing in my front porch light.
And you'd be standing in my front porch light, and I knew you'd come back to me.
And this song just builds to this moment where it's like all of these reasons to doubt are being thrown at her, and she is saying, but no, I knew you'd linger like a tattoo kiss. Like, I knew that this would last on me forever. I knew that you would haunt my what ifs every day of my life. I knew that I would constantly wonder. And what do we see with Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus? She says, will I always wonder? And here she is wondering. She says, I knew you'd haunt all of my what ifs. The smell of smoke would hang around this long, who smokes? Matty Healy smokes. And we see that same imagery of the smoke lingering throughout Tortured Poets Department too, where she says, as in The Black Dog, 6 weeks of breathing clean air, but I still miss the smoke. So we see that parallel back to the Tortured Poets Department again. I knew I'd curse you for the longest time, chasing shadows in the grocery line. She knew that she would think about him all the time and that she would see him out, or that she would think that she would see him and she would reflect on it and she would wonder. And in the voice memo version of this part of the song is extra important, because instead of saying, I knew I'd curse you for the longest time, chasing shadows in the grocery line, in the original version, the voice memo version, she says this, which is so incredibly revealing. She says, I knew I'd wish you would have changed your mind.
I knew I'd wish you would have changed your mind.
I knew you'd miss me once the moment died.
I knew you'd miss me once the moment died.
I knew to love would be to lose my mind.
I knew to love would be to lose my mind.
Guys, I knew I'd love to be to lose my mind. I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic, okay? Like, it all makes sense. It all goes together. When I was looking at the voice memo version and I saw that she said to love would be to lose my mind, and then we have the summation poem where she is literally saying that she is pleading temporary insanity after being in a relationship with him, now seeing that Cardigan was potentially written about this person who she then had a relationship with and then lost her mind. Guys, guys, this is like the ultimate Easter egg. This is actually what I love for Easter eggs to be, okay? This was a voice memo version of Cardigan that she dropped probably on a whim, wasn't thinking anything of it, where she just happened to say, I knew to love would be to lose my mind, and then losing her mind literally became her aesthetic 3 albums later with the Tortured Poets Department, which just so happened to be after this relationship that she is potentially talking about ended. There is a lot. There is a lot we must discuss, and there is a lot that we must continue to discuss with this, because I'm afraid that we are going to be finding things like this for a very long time, and I am so excited to talk about it with you. And it's just such beautiful lyricism, really, with I knew you'd linger like a tattoo kiss, you know, something that is permanent, that's never ending. Ends this with, I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired, and you'd be standing in my front porch light. And guys, the front porch light imagery is beautiful imagery for one, but also we see that also reflected in the Tortured Poets Department over and over. Fresh Out the Slammer, which remember is a song where she is literally saying that her past relationship was akin to jail and she is now fresh out the slammer. She says that she is returning home to the house where you still wait up and that porch light gleams. So we see that reflected just like it is in Cardigan here with you'd be standing in my front porch light. She's returning to the house where you'd still wait up and that porch light gleams. So it's that same imagery here of keeping a light on for someone. And then we also see that in Peter where she says, and I won't confess that I waited, but I let the lamp burn. As the men masqueraded, I hoped you'd return. So it's that same imagery of like leaving a light on for somebody. It's like you are waiting. You have it posted. It's like your front porch light is on and it is a welcoming this visitor. That is what that imagery tells me, and I absolutely love it. The porch light has been one of the images that I have found from this deep dive in the discography that I am most excited for, because it visually is so pleasing to me to leave a porch light on for somebody or to sit by, to leave the lamp burning. And that also has, you know, historical aspects to it as well, you know, to leave a lamp lit like an ever-burning light. I love it. It's beautiful, and I love it. I love the imagery here that we find. She ends Cardigan with, and I knew you'd come back to me. You'd come back to me, and you'd come back. And when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite. And just this song is a beautiful, hopeful, longing song about like a love that has been lost that she is hoping will come back to her. But to view this now from the hindsight view of having the Tortured Poets Department to seeing what happened from the Taylor Swift Matty Healy relationship that we had in 2023 is just so incredibly fascinating to see that she left the porch light on for him And he did come back, and she did lose her mind. And that is what brought us here. And it's very, very interesting to me to look at the context and to look at the lore and to read into this, because once again, it is reaffirming that she is a brilliant poet. She is an artist, and I will, continue to be fascinated and impressed by her lyricism until the day that I die. I'm so into Taylor's artistry that I just, it's brilliant. It's brilliant, to see all of these peppered throughout. I want it to get more attention, to be honest. I feel like more people should be talking about the brilliance of the lyrics in this way, because so much of it feels important. And I just want to share that with you guys. Whether Cardigan is about Matty Healy or not, I think that, I want to believe Taylor with her saying that it is, but tell me what you guys think. Do you guys think that that was a one-off that happened at the Eras Tour, that we shouldn't take it so seriously, and that Cardigan is fictional? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. We can always discuss. I think it's so interesting to look at the lyrics paired with the context and the lore, and I do think that it's important for us to get a full understanding of what Taylor, the artist, is trying to tell us, and trying to also just tell us about her own heartache, right? Because that is what this art is. It's her poetry. It is how she gets out her own feelings. And what do you guys think? Are there any other songs that you think that I should look into? Do you have any other thoughts on Cardigan? Has this video sparked any other ideas for you? Let me know in the comments and we can talk about it. I would love to look into other deep dive videos and look into other songs. Just let me know if there are any that stick out on the top of your head. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it and you like other videos like this, you like lyrical deep dives, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know if there are any other songs that you think I should do in the comments, or if there are any other video ideas that you think that you would like me to cover. Let me know in the comments and I will talk to you down below. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for hanging around. Bye.